Smotrich and Ben Gvir are very angry about this deal, calling it a catastrophe. Ben Gvir said recently that he will dismantle the government if this deal goes through. He admits openly to preventing hostage deals in the past, and he urges his fellow, his right-wing minister Bezalel Smotrich, to resign from the government if hostage deal goes through. So the right wing in Israel is making very clear where they stand on this deal. We definitely did not achieve the goal set out by initially the initial part of the war. Ben Gvir even wrote a lengthy tweet in criticism of the deal. He said, "The deal that is being formed is terrible. I know the details of it well. It includes the release of hundreds of murderous terrorists from prisons, the return of Gazans, including thousands of terrorists, to the northern Gaza Strip, withdrawals from the IDF from the Netzarim axis, the returns to the threats to the residents of the encirclement, thus effectively erasing the war achievements that have been achieved with much blood by our fighters so far in the Gaza Strip. Not only that, it does not lead to the release of all the hostages and seals the fate of the remaining hostages who are not included in the deal to death. This is not a hard choice that must be made to return the kidnapped. It is a conscious choice at the cost of lives of many other Israeli citizens who unfortunately will pay the price of this deal with their lives. We've already seen the fruits of these deals in the past. We learned the hard way that there is no cover for all the promises that we will get along later." What he's referring to probably is the Gilad Shalit deal, which saw the return of one Gilad Shalit for about, I think, 1,000 hostages, and three of those, or one or two of those, were actually ended up being the leaders of Hamas. So he's saying, we've done this in the past, and it didn't work. He continues, "Over the past year, through our political power, we have managed to prevent this deal from coming to fruition time after time. However, since then, additional elements have been added to the government, who now support the deal and no longer constitute a balancing act." What he's probably referring to is Gideon Sa'ar joining the government, enabling basically the government to continue even if Ben Gvir would resign. Again, he continues, "This means that the prime minister will refrain from signing the deal only if the force opposing it is large enough to prevent him from doing so. The power of Otzma Yehudit, which is his party, is not sufficient in the current composition of government to constitute a lever of pressure to prevent the deal, and our withdrawal alone will not prevent its implementation. Therefore, I call on my friend, Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich, to join me in full cooperation against this terrible deal being crafted, and to inform the Prime Minister clearly and firmly that if the deal goes through, we will resign from the government together. I emphasize, even if we are in position, we will not bring down Netanyahu. But this move is our only chance to prevent its implementation, and in fact to prevent the surrender of the state of Israel to Hamas. After more than a year of bloody war, in which over 400 IDF soldiers fell in the Gaza Strip, and to ensure that their deaths will not be in vain, along with this, I call on the Prime Minister to come to his senses. And take steps that will lead to the defeat of Hamas and the release of our hostages without abandoning Israel's security, completely stop the transfer of humanitarian aid and fuel, electricity, and water to Gaza, along with continuing the military crushing of Hamas until its complete defeat." He said that along with a video on X earlier today. The reason why I'm bringing that to you is that the internal politics of Israel are really just as important, if not more important, than essentially, I would say, what the American government is telling Israel to do, or what foreign countries are telling Israel to do, or what Shelley on campus is telling Israel to do. At the end of the day, Israel has to act in its own interests, and hopefully they will. For more, subscribe to this channel, and we'll keep you updated on any developments that happen. But that was just a brief overview of what this hostage deal would look like. Thank you, and have a good one.